What is going on, everybody? Happy whenever you're watching this video day is. We're recording this on Wednesday morning, and we've got an elevated event this week. We've got the Genesis, which is very sadly not in the normal location in the Palisades like we're used to. We're going back to Torrey Pines, which is the second tournament in the last 3 or 4. I guess it was the last second out of the last 4 times in Torrey Pines, which is also a tricky course because it's not a course where it's like there's a guy who plays great specifically there. You could argue for the California guys, but it's not like some of the other courses where there's really guys who are suited as much for it. And it's going to be very different than when most people have played it. So the historical stuff won't matter as much because it's going to be raining like crazy in between. So long driving and accuracy might be more in play than usual because of that. So want to throw that out there as my first takes on this. Sheets, any overall thoughts before we start getting into players?
Yeah, my first take is let's effing go with a golf takedown from this weekend.
Let's go. It's time, right?
Yeah. So FanDuel, we threatened to hit the exacta.
Oh, right. You nailed the FanDuel, right?
Yes, between the Kokies Are Yummy and the SDFS, I thought we were going to run one too.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it was maybe it's just FanDuel, but we didn't need 5, we didn't need 6 of 6.
No,
that's for sure.
No, we certainly didn't.
So the other thing I would like to mention is that so we're gonna have the same discussion every single week, all right? And yes, it was having Scheffler. I think he might have been in the winning lineup, but
he might have ended up there because he was owned by 100% of people.
Yeah. I just have to say, and I'm like a numbers guy, so it annoys me, but it is golf. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it is still a tough sport. And a lot of really, really good golfers out there, and Scheffler is the best. No mistaking that. But you price a guy $3,000 more than everybody else, pretty much, or you project him 30 points higher. I mean, you have to. You're walking a really thin line, when you play guys like that. Now, I'm probably going to end up playing him again, okay? Yeah. But nonetheless, it's not that easy. I'll just say.
I agree with you, and also I will throw out one thing is if this was a different sport like basketball or something, or even baseball, or actually pretty much anything, it doesn't make sense if you take the last few years history, which is what you take. Anything you take that goes into the player of the year, whatever things you want to measure in there, he should probably be a minimum of 3,000 more than everybody else. Just there is nobody even in the same like stratosphere of range of outcomes as him, and he's always like 1,500 to 2,000, and it's just not enough of a difference. Where with his projection, he's always going to look so much better. And this might be one of the weeks where maybe he's not the highest owned spend up. So it's kind of interesting. There's speculation that he may not actually be the highest owned spend up. So we'll see about that.
Is that true?
Yeah. There's some Rory buzz going on here. So
you can have that. I mean,
should we pull up your? He just won. He won too. Yeah, should we pull up your screen, or do you want me to do it?
Nah, I can pull it up. I'm just gonna find out. I'm gonna find that.
Mine's giving away a little too much information because I got all this one I do. So like I tell everybody this, I use for basketball, I use SaberSim's projections because it's too hard for me to update. I will use Sheets and Goldies beforehand if there's no like last second news, but there almost always is. So I use SaberSim for that. For everything else, I use a combination of SaberSim, Goldie, and Sheets' projections because it really is a way of differentiating yourself even from other SaberSim users and averaging it out is something that I don't think anybody's done. And I've had good success with it. Doesn't mean it works all the time, but it's been really good to me overall when I've been able to do that. So I did want to mention this is a good time to utilize those things.
I don't want to waste too much time on this, but if you guys can find it, I did a video on how to like combine like different projections and stuff and different challenges it poses and things like that. And if you're going to take SaberSim and average them with mine, or Saber's average them with Goldies or whatever it is, I did a long video on that, and I encourage everybody to watch it. But I will say this, at least give you one of the conclusions. I mean, I figured this out a long time ago. When it comes to Well, projections are different, but when it comes to ownership projections, as long as you have like a large, not a large set, but as long as you have a reasonable set of projections for ownership, like very like reputable, the more inputs you have, the better. Like if you're gonna, and I used to track this like with all the different sites, and I used to combine them. I used to do all kinds of different mixing and matching stuff. And when it comes to ownership projections, the average of them all was always better in the long run than any one site or any one source. And part of the reason why you can get away with that with ownership projections is because everybody's operating on the same scale. So everybody's ownership projection is going to add up to 600, whether it's yours, Goldie's, mine, whoever. Okay, so everybody's operating on the same scale, so you can combine good sources and have a decent, and the more sources you add, the better those results are going to be. But when it comes to projections, it's a little more challenging because what I found, especially, well, not especially, but certainly in golf, some places just they have completely different scales. Like some places will range from like say, not this week as an example. Let's just say that Scheffler at 100 down to 40 for the lowest guy, right. And some on the same card will have like 80s into 50s. You know what I mean? Like you're operating on a totally different scale. So when you combine those two, you're kind of mixing apples and oranges. So it's a little more suspect when you do that. But with ownership, like for sure. Now with that said, Scheffler is projecting to be the highest projected golfer, as he's going to be from now until at least for next year, right? And he's going to be the highest salaried, and it's always a question of whether the rest of the lineup fits. Like right now, I'm curious to see who. So you guys think maybe that? Oh yes, SaberSim has
Rory
at 40%.
The projections love him.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna, and here's another thing I will caution you about. All right, and this is this should come as no surprise. The sites that have guys projected higher are going to have them projected their ownership could be higher.
Yeah,
that's just the way that goes,
Yes.
So you said it yourself. You said okay. The reason why they're going to have what's his name projected higher is because they have him project. The reason why they have him own higher is because he's projected higher.
Yeah, he's within 5 fantasy points and he's 1,900 or 1,400 cheaper.
Exactly.
So, and for what it's worth, so that's my thing in that range. Just the 10K of those 4 players. Morikawa is my favorite, and I think that Rory's my second favorite, followed by Scotty and Justin Thomas. Now, look, whenever I say the things about Scotty, I have to come up with the same thing that you're saying. It's not that I'm not saying he's the best play. It's just it's golf ownership combined with price. I think that, and I think Rory has a chance to play better. It's also, Scotty isn't. By the way, it's weird. He hasn't looked great, and he still just comes up right near the top every time. He hasn't looked great, and Rory looked great in a non-driving something that doesn't help him. This is a week where he could really be helped by using that driver because of the way the water is going to be. Everything's going to be clamped down, so you're going to see him hitting the ball like 40 yards further than people, and just having much easier ways in. So I really like the Rory and Morikawa as my main core ones from the top. I'll be underweight Scotty and Justin Thomas, even though Justin Thomas is nice to see him playing well again.
Is Justin? I imagine that Justin Thomas is going to be the lowest owned of these guys by
a lot. Yeah.
But I think for a good reason. I just think he should be as much as I don't really feel like playing Rory too much. Rory should be more than 800 above than Thomas, I think.
Right, but for what it's worth, though, Thomas has been really good so far this year. He looks like a better version of himself. All right, so down in the 9K range, Sheets, I'm curious what you're getting to because I definitely have some stronger takes in this range.
Okay, let me just pull up my sheets. It'll be easier for me that way. You could start. You could start the 9K.
Okay, so I'll go. It's the guys for me is I think people are afraid of going back to Oberg, who played 2 tournaments like sick and had to withdraw from one of them, and people are going to be hesitant to go back there. So I really like the idea of if I'm not getting to the Morikawa Rory together, I think you can play Morikawa Oberg. I also think, and look, you guys know me, I'm always going to be well over on this play in general. I am going to be over on the Tommy Fleetwood again. And as much as it may have been painful to some people at first, he still came in as his usual T 15, 17, whatever the hell it was a few weeks back. I believe in him. I think you're also going to get low ownership on him. So those are my 2 favorites. Sungjae, no issues, but not like trying to get I like to have more than the field if I could. And I'm definitely going to be underweight Hideki. It feels tempting to try and take a stand on Cantlay because he's going to be so low owned and that just never happens. But I just like the other plays a little bit better. And the other one I want to take a little bit of a stand on is Taylor Pendrith. So Pendrith, Oberg, and Fleetwood are my 3 favorites here. And that's just the way it is. Those are the guys who I really like. And I don't think you have to play any of them. There's good ranges beneath here. But I really like the Pendrith and the Fleetwood as well as the Oberg.
Yeah, I like Hideki here. He's my favorite of the 9Ks. Boy, and it's again. I'm facing some issues with projections this week because there's so many different ways to approach this.
Yeah,
but I do like Sungjae Im as well. Those are actually my 2 favorites within the range.
Hey, somebody's got to win, as you always say.
Yeah, and that is true. But then again, I'm also getting more Scheffler. I'm currently like in this build that you're looking at, like 50% of both Scheffler and Rory.
Yeah, so you're not going to get people playing any of the 9K range.
That's I guess I'm getting a bunch of Morikawa too.
Yeah.
So the only guy I'm really getting there in this build would be like 20% of Hideki. So you're right about that.
Yeah, I had a feeling that might happen with the 9K range this week. All right, let's talk about the 8Ks. Do you want to start off your favorites, or I am happy to? I'm kind of pretty well prepared. All right, so my favorite play is just under the 8K, but I don't think I'll be alone in that one. I love Shane Lowry here. Now, there's a lot of different takes on whether Shane Lowry is a good weather player. I've heard this week. I know he's had some blow-ups where it just started raining. He's also won tournaments in like the worst weather of anybody could ever see. So Shane Lowry is one towards the top that I like. I don't mind going back to Jason Day. At courses that he's familiar with and has a good track record. Although, like I said, it means maybe less on this one. I like Jordan Spieth. It's nice to see him playing well again. And I mean, these are just all guys I'm just slightly over the field on. Nobody I'm like taking a huge stand on. Rasmus Højgaard, another one just slightly over the field. Sepp Straka, Bobby Mack, Robert McIntyre. And then those are my highest owned of that range. Everybody else I've got some ownership of, but nothing that screams out like a ton. The hardest decision for me is what to do with Will Zalatoris and Sam Burns. Those are the 2 guys I could see potentially haunting me. So that's sort of my take from that range.
Yeah, so you hit on my top owned right now, that being Rasmus Højgaard at 8,300. You also this would seem like someone you'd want to play, but I go right back to Thomas Dietrich. He's only 8K. I like that. And you also mentioned Sam Burns 8,400. That seems a little cheap. And Sepp Straka. So those are actually my 4 favorite from this range.
It is the 1 week for those of you, and it's funny because he doesn't usually play this tournament. It's just because it's an elevated event that he's playing, and that's sort of why the projection sucks on Russell Henley. It's just interesting because we've played a million times, and when is Russell Henley not at least 18% owned? He's always like the guy who everybody loves in whatever range. You know what I mean? And you're just going to get no ownership on him. But I don't think I'm going to take a huge stand on it. I just think that I'll probably have the 5 or 6% that he's owned. But I did want to throw that out there.
So there's no cut, right? Or is there?
There is a tiny cut. It's like a very tiny one, and I don't have the details in front of me right now, but it's a very small cut. I think it might be after 3 days as well.
So this is why, again, for those of you who haven't played too much golf, this is why these big spend ups are usually very popular in these types of events. It's because usually when you want to play a big spend up, you have to risk playing a cheapo and risk them not making the cut. But the more likely it is that you can get the 4 rounds out of the 7K guy, then also the more popular that the 12K guy is going to be.
Right.
So those types of builds are going to be where people go. Now, again, I know a lot of people would think, oh, well, if that's where everybody's going to go, why don't you do something different? Yeah, I mean, certainly that makes sense. I mean, if you can get away with it, making these middle range builds, I mean, it's certainly going to be less popular. But I mean, I've tried it, and I'm just literally never competitive trying to do that. Like just to flip the whole freaking construction around. Like one of these guys just always seems to win. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So it's hard for me to get on board with that whole idea.
Do you know what's interesting is I'm just looking at your projections over there, and it's interesting that your projections are just higher across the board than SaberSims. It's almost like they're different tournaments or something.
It's like what I talked about before. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting just a totally different scale. Like you seeing SaberSim with an 82-point projection on like Scheffler.
Something feels weird about this. I don't get it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm going to continue to work on this throughout the course of the day.
Yeah,
see what's going on here. I honestly can't imagine a world where everybody gets 4 rounds pretty much that SaberSim's numbers are good.
Yeah, Scheffler and Rory are averaging 116 and 120. You know what I mean?
And you know they're going to play. You know what I mean? I mean, if the weather's supposed to be that bad, I guess. But
that's what it almost feels like is happening to me, is that there's a hedging towards the potentially being just 3 days that they can get in golf. But it's for an elevated event. Don't you think they would go further? I don't know. We'll see. It's a lot of rain coming, which, by the way, we need. Side note, but separate story. All right, 75 to 7,900. What are you? Did we do that one already?
No, we didn't do that. I have one guy that's kind of, I would say, standing out, but I'm just getting a lot of them. And that's Maverick McNeely. He's 7,800. He looks like he's getting it owned a little bit, but that's okay. It's a short field. I mean, 10% owned is not that bad. I mean, in a 70-person field, whatever this is. So, yeah, I'm getting the most of Maverick McNeely's my 7,500 up, and Keegan Bradley's showing up for me a little bit. But Maverick McNeely's my top of the group.
I have a feeling McNeely's going to be really popular, which is fine. I actually think he's playing really well. I'm happy to play some of him. By far and away, my top player in this range is Victor Hovland. I don't think it's even close. He probably should be 1,500 to 2,000 more when he's right. You could argue that he'd be one of the best 5, right there with Oberg and the other top guys when he's right. And he's trying some things out, but he's looked good so far. He looked good to end last year. I'm going to ride the Hovland train, and he's by far my highest owned player here. Second is Sam Stevens for me. Third is McNeely, and then sprinklings most of the 7,500 to 7,900 range. And then we're going to get into a range where I'm making some strange decisions here, and I don't know. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to do with some of these.
Which one, the sub 7 or the 71 to 75?
71, 75. Actually, sub 7 is where I'm making some strange decisions. Sorry, so 71, 75. Go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah, I got 2 guys I'm getting quite a bit of. One is Siwoo Kim, 7,100. I'm getting right now 17%, which is a decent amount. And then also Davis Thompson at 7K. But I'm some JJ Spawn too. But I'm kind of into who you're going to get under 7K, because I have a lot of these guys looking good too. So who do you got between 7K and 7,500? Yeah,
and I agree with those guys you had right there. I do think that it's probably right to gamble on guys like Wyndham. That's all I'd say, is that he's not going to get a ton of ownership. He's 7,300. Cam Young is another one that once the ownership drops like around 10%, I think you got to be over. Theoretically, it makes sense to me to be overweight those guys, but could make the same case for Adam Scott too. Like, it's just those ones stand out to me as, okay, we don't really know where they're at this year yet. We saw Cam Young play 3 great rounds and 1 horrible round of golf last week. We'll see. I mean, it's just tough. But I thought this play was even going to be much higher owned than it's currently projected. I think Daniel Berger, and I think he looks great. He's been great, and I don't really know why he's this cheap. I thought we would have known coming into the year. But he looked terrific last week, and he didn't quite have a chance to win. He kind of did, but he was within a few strokes at the end. He was playing in the final group, and I think Berger is when he's good is a really good golfer. I love Andrew Novak too. Andrew Novak already played well here once this year. He's on a tear. We keep getting him at like 2% in every tournament. No one wants to play him. I'll play him. So I like these 6K guys. Then you have Matt Fitzpatrick at 6,800, and it's just okay. I think we got to take some shots there. I like a lot of these 6K guys. Cam Davis as another one that I like, especially because of the mini cut, hardly any cut type of stuff. I want 4 days out of him because he's a wild scorer. I like Bezadenhout. And then I'm just going to have to do it for a place that he's won the tournament at before. I'm just going to play Homa.
My God.
7%. As bad as he looks. Yeah. Projections be damned. Everything be damned. Damn me be damned. Whatever it is. I'm going to play some and just see if he can get it back. And maybe the weird weather change. I mean, he knows the course extremely well. He's a local kid. All the things. But I'm getting a lot of guys down here. Lucas Glover, I'm getting, above 6%. I have Ben Griffin at 12%. So I'm playing a lot of guys in this range. It's not like you have to stick to those, but those are the ones who I'm playing the most of.
Yeah, the guy that I would mention that you just mentioned was Ben Griffin. I'm getting a good amount of him, and Lucas Glover at 6,500, and then for my son we'll go UVA Denny McCarthy as well. Now again, that might not be the best course fit, like you said, if you need to drive the ball. Listen, when I say that, I mean he still drives over 300. It's not like he's short. He's just known as more of a putter. But I got no problem playing him either.
Yeah, and I was answering a question in chat that said, would you cap your max at 2,000 or 3,000 too high? No, I would never do that in golf. However, I would be happy to leave some lineups if I got there at 2,000 or 3,000 in certain cases, depending on what kind of things they were.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I don't think I've left that much on the table in golf. Now I don't put any rules or anything like that, but nonetheless, I just don't think I've ever come up with that.
Yeah, I've tried the 49.9 as your cap, but I would never cap it as 47 or something. It's just you're playing really weird then. If it works, it's a miracle. But all right, Cheats, we're gonna go into it. We're gonna play the game, right? Who is going to win this tournament?
I'll tell you who's going to win the tournament. Hideki Matsuyama's going to win the tournament.
God damn it! Now I have to play some of them.
Dude, it's all right. We'll watch them. We'll watch them withdraw together. It's fine.
All right, I'm going to say Morikawa. All right, under 10K to make the top 5 here.
This guy can't top 5. You know what? I don't want to dip below too much. I'll save this guy for something. I'll go with the guy you mentioned, top 5. I think he'll be low owned. Actually, he won't. I'm going to go with Taylor Pendrith.
Love the Pendrith idea, and the correct answer here for me is probably I should just say Oberg and say okay, he shouldn't be under 10K. But I am going to say I'm going to say Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Fleetwood / Oberg. This pen does not work. Okay, let me just get this straightened out. Fleetwood. Okay, so then we've got the under 9K to top 10.
I mean, he just shows up in so many of my lineups, but I'm gonna not play Højgaard in this particular contest. I'm gonna go with a guy who you were afraid of. So I'm gonna go with Sam Burns.
Okay. And I am gonna say Victor Hovland, even though I'm dropping an extra tier.
I like that. I like the spirit.
I really believe in Hovland this week. Okay. All right. Then we get down to
under 8K for top 20.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna throw one in, just because he was a big subject of the in the Discord last week. I'm gonna go Minwoo Lee. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
He's always like the most people are the most interested in watching him. I swear, of anybody.
Yeah, we're to save that 9.
Right.
Good
Oh,
putt.
I messed up with my. I should say Hovland now. I meant to say Shane Lowry before. It's totally my mistake. He's one of my highest owned players. So
well, because you went up for
yeah,
Hovland, right? So okay.
I went all the way down to 79. Yeah, instead of 88 for.
Okay. So go back to we'll go give you Lowry and then Hovland for the under 8.
Perfect. And then we've got the under 7K to make the cut, but it's not make the cut. It's the best finish from under 7K.
That's right. Ben Griffin.
So you got Ben Griffin, and I am going to go. I really want to just go with the guy I'm owning the most, so I guess I will. I'm going to go with Daniel Berger.
Let's do this. Over 9K to be in the bottom half of the field.
Okay. I'm going to say Matsuyama.
And I'm going to go with Justin Thomas.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Excellent, guys. Well, I will post my exact exposures and everything a little bit later today, as well as all my cores and everything like that. Still got a little bit more work to do. And let's get after it this week. Let's have a good one. Sheets, good to see you, man. And
I'll see you at 6.
Sounds good. Good luck, everybody.